Hello Africa, I'm T-Brain, the ICT expert.
Thank you so much, Program Director. I like that terminology. Having just come from your country, I know it's gained increasing popularity over Master of Ceremony. Now I know why, listening to you. Let me thank you all, particularly the Vishna, Mahesh Patel, and the driver, Manush Shankar, and the chief facilitator for getting me here, Valentina Minta, the head of the operations in Nigeria, for this wonderful company that you've established and that has gone places. I'm really delighted to be here and to be amongst you. You of course would wonder, what does a backwater state politician have to offer geeks and nerds in terms of IT solutions? Not a lot. I admit to that. But there's a lot I can learn from listening to you, and having listened to Manush start on that trajectory that has taken you from 97 down to 2013. Even if it is just to come here and thank you and say, all I want to do is be associated with this success story, my job would have been done. But I think as a recipient of your focus on empowering people, I probably should have one or two things to add to that. And clearly in the past 2 decades, ICT has fundamentally transformed the relationship between governments and citizens and led to the creation of expanding interactions that have brought more openness, more transparency, effectiveness and accountability to the processes of governance across the world. Of course, the program director told you a little bit about Ekiti, but you wonder, okay, yes, new state in Nigeria, big deal. They seem to have many states. What makes Ekiti different from all the other states? We're one of the smallest. That's one difference. Only 2.5 million people. I emphasize the only. Because if you compare that with populations across the continent, you would know that we're bigger than at least 15 countries on the continent. And try it out. Lesotho, Botswana, Swaziland, Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde, Gambia. I can go on and on and on. So I'd just like you to shift your focus and look at us in the context of those countries. So you're dealing with a country within a country here. What also probably puts Ekiti in a unique spot in Nigeria is that we're reputed to be the knowledge capital of Nigeria. Although it's a small state, as I said, it has the highest number of professors per capita in the country. And in all of its households, you have at least a minimum of 2 graduates per household, university graduates. So we already have, if you like, the raw materials for the knowledge economy that Manush was talking about. And as he was talking about the Research and Development Center and a number of things, walking around my head that, okay, the place for this really ought to be Ekiti, not anywhere else. But it didn't quite say where it will be located. It just said the logistics would work out by mid 2014. So we can talk a lot more about that. We've definitely become a crucial node of ICT utilization within the wider Nigerian Federation, where an increasingly sophisticated digital ICT tools in governance in the state, as spearheaded by this administration since we came in 2010, not only has the purpose of enabling greater openness in the conduct of public affairs, but also seeks to bridge the communication gap between our government and the populace, whilst affording government the capability to eliminate waste in public resources needed for the common good. It is pertinent to note that ICT strategies clearly must be tailor-made to suit the peculiarities of the space and time in view. And our chairman talked about that. There's often the tendency to see Africa as one country. If you don't know the context, you're almost always going to fail in applying generic solutions to African problems. So the peculiarities of the space is very critical. And too often, due to the paucity of technical capabilities in the public sector, many governments desirous of utilizing ICT to deepen governance find themselves in the position of laid-back clients to ICT consultants, who themselves, due to a lack of local knowledge, are far removed from the realities on the ground and can at best proffer textbook solutions that achieve little or no success. This is one reason ICT penetration, in my view, in the public sector has been very low, because there are too many examples of failed ICT projects across various levels of governance, which further fuels cynicism. And I'm glad that Techno is already factoring this into its operations. In executing the vision that informed my own quest for public office, which was to position Ekiti State within a global framework and transform it into an economic hub and destination of choice for business, my administration embarked upon the development and implementation of a robust ICT strategy as soon as we assumed office. And this involved putting together an execution-minded, homegrown team that could utilize the digital ecosystem in driving our government's agenda. The team's mandate, beyond creating an ICT blueprint, was to ensure that our venture into the digital landscape was sustainable and continuously added value to our programs and activities. Indeed, we wanted to move beyond the hype that appears to define a number of attempts within the terrain and create something truly meaningful to our people. Therefore, an important point to note is that there is the need to always ensure an appropriate mix in the team saddled with the task of developing an ICT strategy for any government. In our own case, we had a very good blend of technocrats from the civil service, cadres that had a very good grasp of the local environment, as well as our own administration's governance thrust and goals. Our engagement of a consultant was thus for the purpose of benefiting from their cross-sectoral experience and currency with world's best practice in ICT. The team considered all sorts of factors in developing the strategy. These include the nature of our government, subnational. Nigeria, as many may know, is a federation. And in a federation that is multi-ethnic, multicultural, the constitution actually empowers the subnational governments to also drive a number of initiatives on their own without depending on the central government. The structure of governance, we had to factor that into our operation, the function of the various ministries, departments, and agencies, and their interdependence, the existing legal and policy frameworks, the population of our state, and the literacy level. So for us, the main objectives of our ICT digital program is to provide real-time, or as near real-time as possible, authentic, believable, credible evidence of our service to our people, creating and institutionalizing effective engagement with our stakeholders across the world, and promoting participatory democracy, inclusive governance, and accountability in Ekiti State. And from that fairly modest beginning, I can say without any fear of contradiction that Ekiti State has become one of the top 3 public sector brands in the digital space in Nigeria. This is an economy hinged on knowledge stocks that are renewable and a largely green infrastructure having no hazard or erosion attached to it. We are at the early stages of establishing Ekiti Knowledge Zone, which is why I'm here too, to learn from what Techno might be able to offer us. And our idea is for this knowledge zone to have a free trade zone status in Nigeria with the complements of a world-class ICT infrastructure and the benefits of its own custom services, tax holidays, intellectual property protection laws, zero custom duties regime. The government will institutionalize the EKZ knowledge zone under a management authority, provide the basic infrastructure for it, promulgate appropriate laws and regulations, and allow it to be private sector driven in the mode of the Malaysian Cyberjaya or the Dubai Internet City. We're equally considering the possibility of pulling together a special investment fund managed independent of the government that will fuel the growth of the EKZ and which will enable the development of unique physical infrastructure that will attract tourist traffic to the area and possibly cater to special needs such as health and education. Some of the anticipated programs associated with the Ekiti State ICT strategy include the creation of a document management and workflow system, a program project management system, and an ICT training center under the internal to government component. With the citizen-facing component, there will be programs relating to the creation of the Safe City, the emergency control system, our e-health system, our citizens information management system, a geographic information system, land administration management system, and the digital innovation hub. IBM spent 6 weeks with Ekiti State earlier this year, sending about 20 of the professionals under the volunteer scheme to help us analyze and develop a plan for all of what I've talked about. So we already have the rudiments of how to go about it. It's just now moving to the phase of implementation. And one of the pitfalls to be avoided in the deployment of ICT is putting adequate measure in place to ensure it is sustained beyond the tenure of office of the initiators. Sustainability for us required that we developed a team within the government to take ownership of our ICT investments and become drivers of its processes. It's great for a company to be able to grow at the pace that Techno has done because it has an almost limitless tenure. Politicians don't have that advantage. We have a 4-year tenure, or 5 years, the case may be, depending on the country, and you need quick wins in that 4 years in order to convince your people that you deserve another one. At best, you have 8 years. And it's not impossible in Africa for whoever succeeds you to throw everything you've done in those 8 years into the bin and move on with his own agenda. So that's an area where we need to really be realistic in the trajectory of growth to the point that whatever we do will be irreversible. I mean, we have, for example, in Ekiti State, a social security benefit scheme, the first of its kind in Nigeria for our elderly population. And we've backed this with law, but we know that what will sustain it over the long term is really the popularity of the scheme with the population. And it will be difficult for any politician, even suicidal, for any politician to come and even contemplate, let alone demolish the Social Security benefits scheme. At best, it would have to maintain what we pay if it's not able to improve on it. So this is the way our mind is working. But let me end with one of the challenges that we face, particularly in ensuring the sustainability of our achievements. As you would recall, I said earlier that the government of Ekiti is a subnational government, a subnational entity, and it operates within the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And in the quasi-federal political structure that we currently operate, we're still subject to federal laws that sometimes inhibit our ability to be as innovative and in our deployment of ICT in governance. And this is a challenge that cuts across every aspect of governance and is not peculiar to ICT alone. And I'm sure you're experiencing it with the project you're doing with the customs as well. It can be quite a daunting challenge. And an example that readily comes to mind is our document management and workflow system. This is a must for any effective government, as paper files would be converted into electronic documents, with public officials being able to review and approve documents wherever they might be in the country and the world, thereby improving effectiveness and efficiency. However, for this to come into being, the necessary policy and legal framework needs to be put in place. Presently, as governor, I'm required to sign in red ink. Don't ask me why red ink, but that's what it is. And without that signature on a document, no agency of government, particularly the Ministry of Finance, will honor any purported approval. This is the position of the law. As such, how do we change this situation in order for my electronic signature to be recognized by the Ministry of Finance and in any law court in the state or the federation? And part of the reviews that we're considering through a law that will back electronic signature and other such transactions. This is the next phase of our exertions in making the utilization of ICT in administering the state more robust and more effective and more accountable. And I believe, listening to what Techno has done in this short space of its life, there's a lot that we can learn from Techno there's a lot that we can do together in order to begin to make IT solutions a vehicle for really delivering accountability and transparency in governance in our state. I thank you for listening.